I'm going to take a few moments and briefly go through the history of Gifts of the Spirit Church. It's very difficult to separate our church history from the history of its founder, Reverend Carl Hewitt. In 1954, he was driving along the Blue Ridge Parkway, and he stopped at a rest stop, and he was traveling with a friend of his, but he went alone up and higher on the mountain so he could look out and enjoy the view. And as he was looking out, he suddenly saw a man standing by him, and they had a conversation. This man was a spirit person. It wasn't really a physical person. And they had a talk, and during that talk, the Spirit told Carl that he was to found a church, and it was to be a lighthouse in the world. And that kind of confused Carl, because that was the farthest thing from his mind. He had just found out what mediumship was about a year or two before, and because he was, in his life, he was mediumistic and practicing mediumship, but he didn't understand it at all. And he was seeking questions of why he was seeing spirit people when nobody else could. He came down from the mountains and he met his friend, who looked at him and said, "What happened to you? You look so strange." But the spirit energy had altered his appearance, just like Moses had shining, gleaming light after he spent 40 days on the mountain talking with spirit. So this was in the back of his mind. 10 years later, in 1964, Carl had a visitor, someone he didn't know. He got a phone call from someone called Reverend Belgian Bingham, who explained to him that he had just come back from England, and this British medium had this book called The Psychic Stream, and he wanted it's given to Carl Hewitt in Connecticut. Spirit told him to do that. Bing, which is what Carl used to call Reverend Bingham, didn't know Carl at the time, but he followed the instructions and went to visit Carl and gave him this book. Bing and Carl became great friends. Bing became Carl's mentor and eventually encouraged Carl to become ordained as a spiritualist minister. And the Psychic Stream became the foundation of Carl understanding the struggles and the conflicts between Christianity and spiritualism, because we'll talk more about that as we go along. In July 7th, 1977, Carl held his first service in his building that he used to own in 1595 Route 85. It was a hair salon. It had a kitchen, and they met in the kitchen and had their first service 40 years ago this very day. The following year, Carl went down south, which he did frequently, to visit his family. He also did work down there. While he was gone, the people of his church decided to surprise him because they were very crowded in that little kitchen, and they wanted to meet in the basement. But they couldn't because the basement only had one staircase. There was not a second way to get out, and the fire marshal would not allow a meeting to take place there. So they created a staircase going downstairs on the outside of the building. They extended the building and built a staircase in. And Carl had no idea about this. So one of his friends funded this project, and then Carl came back to an altered building and was totally shocked. And from there on in, we met in the basement of that building for many years. On the 3rd anniversary of the church, we had a dinner dance, and the people who attended created that scroll of wishes to Carl that you can look at later. In the back of the room is a handmade quilt. It was a Christmas present for Carl that church members made. Most of those squares were made by the children, but there was others made by adults. And they presented it to him for Christmas, and he treasured that very much because it showed how much love there was in our church and what kind of unity there was. In 1984, we showed the Golden Thread. We started it 7 years before, writing a script. The Golden Thread was a survey of mediumship in the Bible. It turned out to be a 10-hour production, but it went through step by step through the Bible, explaining how all these people in the Bible, from Abraham to Jesus to Paul, all had psychic experiences, mediumistic experiences. God spoke through them, and so forth. And it was a very important work to Carl. which I'll talk about later. And also in 1985, we went to Camp Chesterfield. And at that camp, there were trumpet mediums. And the trumpet is sitting right there, that cone-shaped object, which spirit can lift. The medium goes into a trance state. Ectoplasm, which is a form of energy, is withdrawn from the body. It creates a voice box. It gets into the trumpet, and spirit can speak. My father had died 2 years before this trip. I got to speak to my father. It was him. No doubt about it. The fact is, the voice wasn't 100% his voice, but the words he chose was his pronunciation was his, the enunciation was his. Everything he said was totally his, except the voice wasn't exactly the same. And he was one who totally disbelieved that there was life after death. And he said, when you're dead, that's it, period. And as much as I tried to get him to believe differently when he was on this plane, he would have none of it. So I asked him at that point, it's like a phone conversation to the spirit people. It's really a phenomenal experience. And so I said to him, so tell me, Dad, do you still believe when you're dead? And he said, without skipping a beat, just like that. Instantly after, he said, some people have to live and learn, some people have to die and learn. And that was his answer. I had some very powerful negative experiences with the trumpet because I was so angry. Because here was positive proof that spirit can communicate with us, but it was taken away from us by religious leaders who didn't want us to know about that we could communicate with spirit, because they want to be the only people who are in charge of our communication to the world of spirit and our path to God. That's the only way they can go is through them, and that's totally false. Everyone can talk to the God within. Jesus said God is within. He said that in Luke 21:17. He told us the kingdom of God is within. So look within, and you'll find it. And this is why we do the affirmations, talking to the God within. In 1986, Carl went to see Ramtha, who is a channeled ascended master. Coincidentally, the first time that Ramtha spoke to his medium, J.Z. Knight, was the 7th of July, 1977, at 2 o'clock Pacific time. So it was a 3-hour difference. And if you look at your program, you will see that the rays of the sun go from the to East Coast and also to the West Coast. So there was some sort of connection there, because that image that you're seeing was created by an artist following the vision that was given to Carl, that this was to be the church logo. Our church name was picked by Spirit, as we'll talk about in a little bit. So tomorrow, Reverend Kevin will be talking to you about precipitated art. The first cards that we got is this one right here. This is a blow-up of the card with Jesus' picture on it. And when you come tomorrow, you will learn what precipitation mediumship is. In 2000, we published our first book, The First Encounter with an Angel. In 2002, we had a surprise testimonial party and 25th anniversary celebration for Carl on a farm outside. There's a whole album there. Carl was very touched by this.
All I can say, people, is thank you. I'm sorry, I'm speechless. I'm speechless. I never expected this. There's so many times that I feel that I'm not appreciating what I have done, what I'm doing, and what I have to do. And coming here today and being a little bit angered that those in the other dimension didn't tell me. And there's a rule, this is the first time it has ever happened. First time it has ever happened that anybody ever pulled anything like this on me.
The thing about this church, it's always been a spiritual gas station. Carl used to say this all the time. Gifts of the Spirit Church is a spiritual gas station. When someone's gas tank gets low, they come in and refill, and then they drive off. or thousands of miles and don't come back for a long time, and then they come back again when they need it. So people are always in and out and in and out, and the lack of continuity sometimes gets a little disconcerting, and that's why he felt that way. In 2005, Reverend Carl transitioned to the spirit world. A few months later, we published our second book, Crossovers, The Origins of Homosexuality. It was a book that Awan, the angel without a name, who is the protagonist of the angel trilogies, wanted that published. He wanted that information out there. So for people to understand that being gay is not a choice, that people are born that way, and it has to do with the vibration of the soul, the actual charge. Some women have a negative energy, and that's not good or bad. It's just polarity, as in a battery. Men have positive, and therefore, when a female soul enters a male body, it because the person is be gay, and that was something that Awan really insisted he wanted out there. And since it was taking so long to get his teachings published, it took me 20 years to finish the book. So we published the crossover book a lot sooner. When Carl moved down to South Carolina about a year before he died, the church closed for a while, and I reopened the church on September 10th, 2006. We had our 30th anniversary the year later. In 2008, we had a British medium here, Val Williams. Some of you remember her. She is an absolutely phenomenal medium. I invited her to be here, but unfortunately, she couldn't make it to this event. But she does send her best wishes to all of you and congratulates us for all the work that we do. In 2010, we opened a branch of this church in New Jersey, so there's now 2 churches. And then the second and third books of the Encounter series were published, and now we're here at the 40th anniversary. There are many different other things that I could stand here and talk about, but I don't want to put you to sleep. However, if you want to watch the PowerPoint that's created on that computer over there, it shows you many different aspects of our church history. So that's a brief run-through of the highlights of how we evolved into the church that we are today.